All right, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and get started with today's webinar. I just want to thank everyone for the attendance today. We have quite a large class, and I'm very excited about what we're going to be talking about at this webinar. So let's go ahead and get started today with today's webinar with eCC Desktop Automation. And today is February 13th. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Today's webinar is going to last for about an hour, and all of our participants are going to be dialed in and everybody's on mute, and I'll be taking questions during my presentation, and we'll probably have a large question and answer time, and you can submit all your questions via the GoToMeeting, the GoToWebinar screen. There is on your dashboard, there is a portion for questions, and you can go ahead and put your questions in there, and we'll open the forum later during our question and answer time. So your presenter today is myself, Allegra Mitchell, and I'm the Customer Success Manager here at Webgility. So if this is your first time attending one of our webinars, I'd just like to say welcome, and if you're joining again, welcome back. Before we get started, I'd really like to talk about who the company is and kind of just introduce us to you as well. So we're headquartered here in San Francisco, and we have our development and support center in Indore, India, and our product serves thousands of small to medium-sized customers worldwide. We've been certified with Intuit since 2007, and we're also partnered with the top e-commerce platforms such as Magento and BigCommerce, as well as shipping providers and hosted QuickBooks providers such as Unidata and RightNetworks. And our affiliates are made up of hundreds of web designers, developers, QuickBooks Pro advisors, all promoting our products. And our products are eCC Desktop, eCC Cloud, and ShipLark. So a little bit about our agenda today. I'm going to talk about what is eCC Scheduler, how does it work. I'll show you how it's used, what it can automate, and kind of give you some scenarios of how it can best be used. And then we're going to go right into a question and answer forum where I'll take your questions. I'll show you around the help desk, tell you what your resources are, especially with our help desk and our support team. So about the scheduler, what does it do? Well, first off, the scheduler runs separately from eCC Desktop, which is a very important thing because if the eCC software is closed, the scheduler can continue to independently run. And it will automatically pull orders or download those orders from your online store. It can automatically post orders to QuickBooks, create customers and products within that process, and update the order status into your store, and we call that posting back to store, and it can synchronize inventory. And all of this can be done automatically within a certain amount of time. So the downloading of orders, and I'll show you this when I go into the scheduler, can be every 5 minutes. The posting to QuickBooks could be every 15 minutes. The posting back to store could be every 30 minutes. And the syncing can be, every hour if you'd like. So we'll just talk about those scenarios, and I'm really happy and excited to take your questions about using eCC Scheduler. So now I'm going to go right into the demo and show you how this is used. But before that, if there are any questions, I can take some questions. Let me just check for a moment. I do want to mention that this webinar is being recorded, so if you can't hear or having some audio issues, this will be recorded, so you will be able to watch it later if you need to. Okay, somebody asking a question here, what's the minimum time between schedule updates? I will address that question immediately as soon as I get into the scheduler and we go over the timings and how to set those things up, okay? Great. So before I even discuss the scheduler, I want to talk about what eCC does, because I want to set this up in a way that you understand how you can manually do these things, and then you can appreciate in a better way what the scheduler is able to do for you, allowing you more time to do other things. So as I mentioned, first and foremost, the scheduler can automatically download these orders, and all those orders are displayed here within the inbox. A second thing that the scheduler can do is automatically post orders to QuickBooks and automatically post to store. Posting to store involves if you have shipped out the order or if you've used eCC to do your shipping, eCC scheduler, when it posts to store, it will not only change the status of the order to completed in the online store, it will also send the shipping information, such as the carrier and the tracking information, to that order. And if your online shopping cart has a trigger to send an email, by posting to store, eCC can communicate with the cart, turn on that trigger, and notify your customer. Another really big part about the scheduler is products. A lot of people depend on the scheduler to synchronize their inventory between QuickBooks and their online store. So I'm just going to take you through some of the screens manually to show you what the scheduler will be automating exactly, and then show you how that's set up within the scheduler. So the first thing that the scheduler can do is, and most importantly, is synchronizing products. So I'm going to show you the product synchronization in terms of this area within eCC and build on that to explain this automated feature. So synchronizing products. There are two different flavors of product status in this area here, either in sync or out of sync. So if quantity is in sync, that means that the quantity in the online store matches the quantity in QuickBooks. If a quantity or a price is out of sync, it means that they're different. And what the purpose of synchronization is to equalize the information. So the first step is to decide, where is your master location of your inventory? So if your master location is your QuickBooks, and if that is the place where when you get new inventory, you enter that inventory there, that is your master location. So QuickBooks will always, so when you're looking at QuickBooks quantity, you know that's always correct. You can, of course, use your online store as your master location. In that case, you would want to update the QuickBooks products with the quantity. So to understand how the scheduler automates this, you must understand the steps it takes to decide, okay, in what direction do we want scheduler to automate. So by establishing a master location, you know where the information is going to be correct, and then you can easily deduce where the information needs to be updated. So that's what this select an option to synchronize data is doing. You can either update the QuickBooks product if your online store is the master location, or you can update the online store product if your QuickBooks is the master location. Now, depending on either one of these areas, you've got different inventory abilities to sync. So if you're going to update the QuickBooks products, you can only synchronize either price or quantity. But if you are going to update your online store products, you can sync both at the same time. So I want to introduce you to the synchronized products screen and kind of use that logic that we just built to understand what you're looking at here. So let's take this product right here. This product within this area, if the fields are red, that means there's conflicting information. So either the online store or QuickBooks, the information doesn't match between the two. So as you can see here, this item I have highlighted, I've got 999 in my store, and I've got 9,994 in QuickBooks. Now, because I've established my master location, let's say my master inventory location is my QuickBooks, then I know my QuickBooks inventory is correct, and I should then update my online store product at the quantity level. So that's the logic that is involved in understanding this particular area. Let me take a quick pause because I do have some questions. I want to address some questions here. Can you review where we set the master location? That's a really good question. Well, you actually set the master location. So this is, again, a business logic type of consideration. If you normally, in your normal business, if you are using QuickBooks as the place to, when you receive new inventory, enter that inventory as a quantity adjustment within QuickBooks, then you have established that area as your master location. If you do the same on your online store, well, then that's your master location. So the master location is truly up to you. and to always use that master location as consistently to update new products. It's a very good question. Thank you for that. Is there a way to set a default? There is a way to set a default within the scheduler. So let's see. Now I want to go into the scheduler because I'm getting a lot of questions here. Okay, I have a question about an eBay store. The question is, if you have multiple price levels, the store is $10, Amazon is $15, eBay is $17, can you specify and sync which which price level to match and sync? This is a very, very good question. And this is also a question of syncing and using the scheduler within a multi-channel scenario. So let's say we have established our QuickBooks our QuickBooks company file as our master location. And Brian's question is about multiple pricings. Now, when you have multiple pricings within a marketplace situation, you could, of course, have different prices for those products within the marketplace and the carts and the environment. But the price that is in QuickBooks, if that is your established master location for your pricing of your products, it's going to revert everything to what that pricing is in QuickBooks within your master. Well, it's going to revert it back to whatever price is in the master location, and we've established that to be QuickBooks. So in your case, if you have different pricings within your various shopping carts or various channels, then synchronizing price is something that you're not going to want to do, because you have obviously have multiple pricing levels for a reason in those stores. So if you have that type of scenario, it may be best just to synchronize quantity. It's a very good question. Thank you. All right. Any other questions before I move on? Okay, so I'm going to address the question that Michael had, and he asked, what's the minimum time between scheduled updates? Great question. So I'm going to switch this back onto the dashboard, something nice and neutral, and go right in to the scheduler. So this is the scheduler. The scheduler can be accessed directly from the dashboard. If you click on the blue button, the scheduler, it will immediately pop up in your system tray. And here's my system tray. Here's my eCC scheduler. I click on that, and it pops up right here. So again, it's showing that it's completely separate from the actual eCC software, and that shows its independency from the software itself. So I want to talk about primary functions, and this first tab within the scheduler are all about the primary functions. So as you can see, I've got a bunch of stores within my eCC store profile here, within my eCC account, and so the scheduler can be set for each individual store. And so if you're in a multi-channel kind of situation selling on multiple channels, you can set the scheduler to interact with different shopping carts at different times. Now, if you have multiple channels, and I'll kind of get into that when I talk about the best practices, because, automation is great, but there are some moving parts that prevent the rapid fluidity of the scheduler to automate. So I want to talk about those to build the expectation of kind of what the scheduler can do. I get a lot of questions about the scheduler. Can it sync real time? Well, if you have 20,000 products, that's really difficult. It's going to take some time, and I just want to make sure that you can expect that and know kind of how to get around that. So let's see if there's any more questions about anything before I go into the primary functions. There's a question, is there a way to hide or delete inventory that needs to stay in QuickBooks? It's the prior year's products with zero inventory, but it's not necessarily in eCC and not on the website. That's a really good question. Thank you for that. There is a function called ignoring. And let me just show that real quick, because this is a really good question. If you have products, let's say they're last season, and you don't have them in your online store, and within this scenario, there is zero quantity. What you can do, I'm looking in the product module here, and I went to products, my products, and this is where you can, eCC looks at your products in your QuickBooks and your products in your online store. And as I flow through these two tabs, you see this little icon that says ignore. So if you have products that are in your QuickBooks that you want eCC to ignore, then you can just click on the icon, say, do you want to ignore this product? Say yes. It ignores it from the syncing. So it will no longer look at this product as something that it needs to synchronize. You can do that with your online store products as well and your QuickBooks products as well, just so it's out of the database of syncing. So I wanted to go over that in case anybody had products that are an exception, but they want to keep them in their QuickBooks company file for later. I know some people like to do that. So thank you very much for that question. All right, now I'm going to jump right into the scheduler. Okay, so back to the primary functions within the scheduler. So this first tab is the configuration tab. And let me explain this tab. If you are, let's say, constantly making updates to your company file, let's say your company file is your master location, and you're constantly receiving inventory, and you need eCC to see that new inventory at a regular interval, just so eCC is constantly looking at your company file. This is what this first tab does. It downloads the newest data that you put in either your QuickBooks company file right here. So if I'm putting in a bunch of items, I want it to check my company file every hour or check every 12 hours for new information. If I'm adding customers, let's say I've got wholesale and retail customers, all of my wholesale customers actually have customer records, and I create those manually in QuickBooks. I want eCC to see all of my wholesale customers. Other data would be if you're adding vendors, if you're adding different types of, let's say, templates for your transactions. So just a constant flow of data that you want eCC to be seeing at a regular interval. And that's for QuickBooks. Now for the downloading configuration, this is just downloading information. So if you're putting new information within your shopping cart, eCC scheduler can check every 3 hours or every 24 hours. This is up to you. So all of these things are optional. You don't have to do every single one of these things within the configuration tab or every single one of the functions within the scheduler. Only do the functions that you need automated, because that will improve the speed of the scheduler, and also you can keep track of what's going on. Because as this is automating, remember, eCC Scheduler is completely automatic, so it's good to control the information that's being automated so you know how to kind of react in a functional way, or take the next step, or can communicate to your team how you want to fulfill these orders based on the automation. So I just want to mention that too. All right, any questions before I move over to the next tab? Another question here, can eBay stores be linked to ECC2? Yes, ECC integrates with eBay US just fine. Great question, thank you. Let's see. About the ignoring products, can it be done globally so we don't have to ignore one by one? In that area that I showed you, you can select a grouping or kind of a batch of products and then click the ignore icon on the side right next to the little truck icon and ignore like a whole grouping. So that's how you can do that, kind of at a global level there. Okay, next area I want to talk about is the Orders tab within the scheduler. So to answer the question, what's the intervals I can automate these functions, this is where the automation begins in terms of order fulfillment. So in the Orders tab, I can say, all right, I want to download orders every 1 minute for my online store. I want to post orders to QuickBooks every 15 minutes. And I want to post as soon as an order is shipped or marked as shipped in eCC, I want to post to store, I don't know, every hour. So one thing, and I'm kind of going to talk about best practices kind of through each tab as I go. I kind of want to make sure you know how to use each tab in the best way. So a best practice about this orders tab is what I like to call a chain of automation. Because the scheduler is doing all these functions, let's say if ECC is downloading orders every 1 minute or let's say it's downloading every 5 minutes and it's posting a QuickBooks every 5 minutes and it's posting a story every 5 minutes, the scheduler, just like, some people can't chew gum and walk at the same time. The scheduler it may kind of spit out all this automation at one time, and it could break, or it could slow down, or it could just be so much data that the scheduler does all these functions, not at 5 minutes, but whenever it can clear the cache of automated functions it should be doing. So to minimize that and to have the scheduler work at even intervals, and I definitely like to stress the scheduler working at even intervals, just so you as the user know, okay, when you're looking at the clock, okay, every 5 minutes I've got new orders. Every 15 minutes, so that's 3 cycles of 5, it's posting to QuickBooks. And then post to store, I can do every 30 minutes, so 2 cycles of 15. And I like to call this a chain of automation. So the automation can run in an even interval, spaced out in a balanced way, so the scheduler is working not only to automate, but also with you. Because the scheduler is able to pop up these notifications of what it's doing. And when you're looking at these notifications, you don't want to be bothered by the notifications, but you also want to know, okay, every 30 minutes I should see a post to store notification, or every 15 minutes I should see X amount of orders being posted to QuickBooks. Every 5 minutes I should see a notification of orders being downloaded. And that's just for you to know that the scheduler is functioning correctly and is functioning in a balanced, equal way. So that's a really good best practice for this area. Let me see if I have any questions about this. Okay, here's another question. If you indicate every 6 hours, can you tell the scheduler the exact hour, either 12 or 6 p.m. or 3 p.m.? Great question. Because the scheduler is automating, it's not doing it at a set time. It's doing it, it's kind of starting from whenever you start the scheduler. So the only time where you find there's a set time of something is when it's backing up the database, and that's a secondary function, and I'll get to that in a moment. But there isn't a kind of a set timing, I believe, for kind of saying, all right, I want it to download orders at 3 o'clock Pacific time and post to QuickBooks at 3:15 Pacific time, because that would just get in the way of, we work with kind of a wide, we have clients all over the world. There's all these time zones. So, in order for the scheduler to automate quickly, we don't want it to get bogged down with time zones. Because, or if let's say you're in a multi-user situation and your warehouse is using the scheduler and they're 2 time zones away, there's going to be a natural delay. So no, the answer to that question is no. Let's see, do I have any other questions? I have another question here. Can we download pricing for WebStore to QuickBooks for updates as well as the items descriptions? Okay. So when eCC is syncing, and that's a really good segue to my next area here, the Products tab. So within this Products tab, this is automating the area that I showed you in the product module in the synchronized product screen. All of that stuff boils down to just these kind of 2 zones. The first step is enabling the scheduler. So this is where the synchronization timings question comes into play. So, and also the amount of products in your database. So let's say you've got 50 products and you say, I want to enable the product scheduler to synchronize products every 15 minutes. Since my master location is my QuickBooks company file, I want to update the online store at the quantity level. 50 products, 15 minutes, no problem. Now, if you have 2,000 products or 50,000 products. I've definitely seen a client with 100,000 products. It does get quite large. Now, 15 minutes for 100,000 products, or something that's over 10,000 products, is really, really difficult to do. So building the expectation with this scheduler is very important. Just as before you got eCC, you painstakingly managed your inventory and tried to balance that inventory, and you know how long it took you to do it. Now, when you're asking the scheduler to do it, the size of your database is definitely something that you should be thinking about. So 15 minutes is not going to be 15 minutes. It's really going to be more like an hour, because that's a lot of information eCC has to balance. Because as I mentioned before, when we looked at it manually, eCC scheduler is looking at QuickBooks and it's looking at your online store and equalizing whatever information you decide or you want it to equalize, either quantity or price or both. So you want to use the scheduler in a very, very smart way, and to do that is to understand that the size of the database does matter in terms of the speed. So you definitely want to take that into account. One of the new features I want to talk about in the scheduler is creating missing products in QuickBooks. So, this kind of goes back to when you're setting up the store configuration and, you've got a missing product. Here I am in the store configuration. I'm in the product screen. And when you post to QuickBooks, how do you handle missing products? This prompt to create the missing product or map it with another item, this is kind of like if you're posting to QuickBooks manually and boom, it pops up on the screen, oh, you got a missing product. This next area, this is what the scheduler is helping facilitate, automatically creating products in QuickBooks if not found. So this is an area that has a setup process. So you can actually set up the type of product you want eCC Scheduler to automate, or to create within QuickBooks if it's not found. So this is where you can adjust this, and of course you can always adjust the product kind of account, asset account, income account when the product is in QuickBooks. So just wanted to let you know what that feature is and how to use the feature and set defaults for that feature. Okay, any questions so far about that? I have another question here. Just going through my questions. These are great questions. Thank you so much. Let's see. Okay, I already answered that question. If I use a Magento, oh, here's a really good question. If I use a Magento extension that has a schedule to import data on a schedule from another location, and then Webgility wants to sync with Magento at the same time, will that be a conflict if they both want the same info at the same time? Okay, great question. So in this case, Magento is your master location for your inventory because you have another tool that is updating and importing data within Magento. So that's where you're importing if you have new products. So we've established Magento is our master location. Now, if you're doing something like what Jamie is asking, you want to really make sure that you are using this configuration tab to download the configuration every 3 hours. So we can automatically see that if you've got this tool that's importing data, eCC is only going to automatically look at your Magento store every 3 hours anyhow. So that's actually a really good benchmark. So you can know every 3 hours eCC is going to get the new information, and then of course the scheduler is going to start running automatically and doing some synchronization. So in your case, you want to update the QuickBooks product, since we've established Magento is your master location, at the quantity level. Awesome. Thank you for that question. Let's see. Another question. Is every task the scheduler can do also available outside the scheduler? That is, can eCC Desktop do everything manually that can be done in the scheduler? That answer is yes. So that's why I started the beginning of this, to show you where and how eCC does this manually, so you can see how the scheduler is able to automate these things. So of course, let's say if you're going to go through the configuration, this first tab, the manual location for this would be if you go to File, Download Latest Configuration, download data between Online Store and for QuickBooks. If you're going to download orders, the manual location of this is, of course, is Get Orders. Post to QuickBooks is, of course, within the inbox. Post to QuickBooks, Post to Store. Those are those manual locations. And, of course, Synchronize Products in the Products menu. This is where the manual location is here. So anything you can do manually, the scheduler can do it automatically if it's within the boundaries of the scheduler. That's a great question. Thank you for that. I have another question here. Though I know it's dependent on a lot of things, what is the approximate time to update each product? Approximately 1 second, 2 seconds. Let's see, 15 minutes. So we're not talking about seconds here. We're talking about minutes. And then we're taking into account the size of the database. So we're talking about even more seconds. So I remember in version 2, the scheduler was every hour. That was the shortest time you could automate. So within V3 and 4, we've brought that down to 15 minutes. So 15 minutes is as fast as you can get within the scheduler, not taking into account, like, if you have a really, really large database. If you have an extremely large database, you can look about an hour, maybe even 2, depending on how large that database is. So very good question. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, okay. So I have a remark here that'll give me a good idea of how long our items will take. We have a prepared food service and we're doing delivery. Therefore, it's very important that we do not oversell the store items because the retail goes so quickly. That's a really, really important point. And I have noticed from a lot of the questions I get from users, using this scheduler is to prevent overselling. Overselling in the store, in the online store, is very bad if you have a retail location, because of course if you're using point of sale, and of course eCC integrates with point of sale, has a scheduler for point of sale, but if you have a retail location, your retail location is always priority. That's actually another channel that is going to be competing with your online channels. So if somebody walks into the store and purchases something, they already have it. So you certainly don't want someone online purchasing that same product, because now we have a refund on our hands, or the person who's ordered online has to wait until you receive that inventory again. So using the scheduler is extremely important when trying to prevent overselling. And I actually wrote an article about this on our community when we were using our old community, and moved that over to the help article within our help desk. And this is a great time to kind of segue into our help desk and kind of talk about some of the resources that you have at your fingertips. So let's see, I'm going to switch into my other slides here. So about the resources that you have. We have a customer success squad, and the customer success squad, what we do is, if you purchase implementation services that, with your Pro Premier subscription, and if you have a enterprise plan or a point of sale plan, it comes with those particular plans. So we're here to install and set up eCC and train you how to use it, and we also have QuickBooks Pro Advisors to address your QuickBooks questions kind of within the e-commerce sphere. So if you have any questions for us, you can always email us at cs@webgility.com. All right, and another area I want to show you what your, what your resources are the help desk. And the help desk is pretty much the encyclopedia for all product documentation. It also houses our community, and it also will have our release notes and any news and update. One good thing about the product documentation is that there is a communal aspect built into each of the articles. So now that I've kind of talked about the help desk, I want to actually show you our help desk so you can know what you're looking at. So here's our help desk right here. It's at help.webgility.com. Now, to address that overselling question, within the search area, you can search anything. So I'm going to search this particular scenario. So multiple stores. All right. So if you have multiple stores, how do you use the eCC scheduler to prevent overselling? We've got an article for that. How to prevent overselling when integrating with multiple stores. So in this article, I explained step by step, and I referenced this chain of automation to set up the scheduler in the multiple stores, how to kind of structure where this tab, in the orders tab, what to do within this kind of chain of automation, and how to set up the all-important automatic product scheduler, because all of these elements work together. So it's really, and also it's really important to download new information from the scheduler. So when you're trying to prevent overselling, you're using the power of the configuration tab, orders tab, products tab within eCC scheduler. So I just wanted to show you that because you know, the more you read this article, you know, I can improve it, and also you can also put your comments about this article here at the bottom. So each article has the ability to kind of have a communal aspect within the article itself. So if you have any comments about that, you can always put it in the article, and I'll be happy to address those questions there too. All right, back to our resources. So I want to talk about the support team. Our support team, you know their number, it's right here, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6. And if you have any questions or you're having a support issue, you can always email them at support@webgility.com. We're working to get 24/7 or 24/6, so we're always here to address your questions. All right, and next I want to talk about the webinar schedule, because I know I see some familiar faces here too. So I just want to let you know the webinar last week was recorded and it is up so you can watch it. The webinar today will also be recorded. The webinars in the next 2 weeks are going to be really, really intensive. So next week is managing inventory. I'm just going to talk about how to manage inventory. If you're using configurable products with Magento, if you're using products with variations with WooCommerce or WordPress type carts, if you're using products with options with BigCommerce, if you have any type of inventory handling question, this webinar is for you. The last webinar I'm going to have during this month is shipping. So it's shipping and more shipping. Shipping with eCC Desktop, shipping with ShipLark. I'll be talking about like how to print out domestic labels, international labels, using FedEx, UPS, Indicia, Dazzle, Stamps.com, and Express One. So if you're doing a lot of shipping or thinking about utilizing eCC for shipping, or want to just address any questions you have about shipping within eCC or within generally e-commerce in general, it'd be great to see you at that webinar. All right, so now that I've taken a quick break from the product, let's actually go back into the product and take some more questions about the scheduler. Someone asked a question. I'm confused. What is the difference between order and product? That is a very good question. Wouldn't the products be within the order? Of course they are. Yes, but orders is one thing. So to explain that, This is an order. Orders are in your inbox. Orders, of course, have products inside of them. Yes. So here's an order. Here are two products. But orders have distinct information. Orders have the information that eCC has downloaded from the online shopping cart itself. So not only do you have product information, you've got information about that order, shipping costs, taxes, discounts, totals. You've got the customer information. All of that, if you're using eCC for shipping, all of that shipping information is being directly transferred to the shipping module. And so order information has kind of a broad information. So every single aspect about that order is contained within the order. Now, if you're working with just products or items, you're working with just products or items. Working with these products here, you're working with them independently of any orders. So you're isolating them within an environment where you're only using products or only dealing with items in your store or items in your QuickBooks company file. So that's a very good question. I'm glad I got to clarify that for you. Thank you. I've got another question. If we don't want inventory to post to store because we never want the store to run out of inventory, what would be the proper product setup for eBay reasons? Great question. So if you never intend to sell out of a product, you really want to make sure that in your online store, you kind of set that product to be like infinite. Like you could just put 9,999. But what really matters is the formulation of that product in QuickBooks. So since QuickBooks, the cornerstone of eCC is QuickBooks integration, if you have a product that you don't want to maintain inventory on, you want to make sure that product is created in QuickBooks as a non-inventory item. A non-inventory item has no inventory asset account which is tied to quantity. So if you don't care about quantity, or if you have an infinite number of something, let's say you have a downloadable product, there's an infinite quantity of that downloadable product, then in QuickBooks you would want that as a non-inventory item. No quantity needs to be entered. And in your online shopping cart, just to maintain, quantity so that, that product doesn't get delisted because you're at eBay, you could set it to a really high number and just say, okay. In that case, you wouldn't necessarily want eCC to synchronize that quantity. So you could, again, ignore that particular product in QuickBooks or in the online store. So ignore it from being kind of calculated within the product's sync. So thank you for that question. Great question. Oh, we got some compliment from Suyash. Awesome. I'm glad Suyash helped you out. That's really good. All right. Another question. If Magento is my master store for quantity and price, can I make QuickBooks my master for product receiving off a purchase order? So basically I can toggle what platform is the master on the fly. Okay. This is a slippery slope into just confusing yourself. You want to make sure that your master location, if you're flowing between master locations, you never want to have more than one master location. That's just going to confuse you. So if you're like Jamie in this case, receiving quantity in QuickBooks from a purchase order, you may want to synchronize that independently. Or you may just want to decide that if you're receiving inventory in QuickBooks from a purchase order, then just manually changing the quantity for that product in the online store. This is just to keep the master location always established, because it's very important to take into account that establishment of the master location, because that's where the automation starts. That's where, that is where you can always depend on, okay, my quantity is always going to reflect what the master location is reflecting. You always want to know that in the back of your head and have a consistent place that is that master location. So you may not want to toggle between master locations. You can get around that by kind of manually updating the quantity in the online store, just if you're receiving quantity from purchase orders. So that's a very good question. Someone wants me to finish on the notifications. Sure, of course, thank you. So the very last tab are the notifications. Pretty much when the scheduler is automating, it's going to be popping up these little bubbles. You can hide them or you can see them. Also with the scheduler, it logs what it's doing. You can keep that on or turn that off. That's really it with the notifications. The next area I want to go to is the secondary options here. Now the secondary options here are really cool because this first area is using the scheduler as a startup item. So when you turn on your computer, scheduler will automatically pop up as the items that start when you start on your computer. So again, that shows its complete independence from the actual eCC software from being open. So you don't even have to open the software for the scheduler to get started with automation if you're starting it as a startup item. The next area is automatically backing up of the eCC database. Now, a best practice for eCC, you should definitely be automatically backing up your database. I personally, even though I've got a lot of test environments, I back up my database every 3 months just to be on the safe side, just to know that, okay, if something happens with my demo environments, I can always restore. So eCC Scheduler can facilitate that by enabling the automatic backup, my little pop-up here. So you can always select a folder for backing up the database. Now, to prevent this little pop-up from that I'm getting that's like invalid area to backup database, you want to keep your database backups to the actual eCC folder or the Webgility folder. So by choosing, let's see, your folder, your C drive, your Webgility folder, inside the Webgility folder, you can put it in your eCC folder, or if you're using Shiplark, you can put it in your Shiplark folder. Putting it in the eCC folder, that eCC folder is specially optimized to handle updated data such as a backup file. And backup files are .bak. That's how you know it's a backup of your database. So the eCC folder that we give when your program is installed is the proper folder or location to always back up that database in. You can, of course, take that database backup and put it on a flash drive for safekeeping. One other thing that you can do, this is the one thing you can actually automatically set at a timing, is backing up this database. So you could say I want to do it monthly, back up the database at 11 a.m. and keep the backup file every, for 15 days or for 3 days or something like that, just so you can see a previous version of the backup and kind of maintain, okay, when is a restore point? So that's pretty much the secondary options of eCC Scheduler. Again, with all of these settings that you can do, you can always save the scheduler specifications and then move on to the next store. And I would also like to mention each shopping cart has its own level of automation. So for example, if I go into my this is my eBay store here. As you can see, let's see, I can download orders automatically again. But there may be another store where I can't do something in. So, a lot of the scheduler kind of depends on the cart and what you're able to do. So you always want to kind of have that in the back of your head, take that into account. That's also something good. Any other questions? You're very welcome, Jamie. You had great questions. Thank you. You all had very wonderful questions. I have another question. Will I get a copy of these slides? The webinar is getting recorded, so you'll be able to kind of watch this at your leisure later when I publish it. Let's see. Is it normal if I look at my scheduler, it looks different from yours, I'm using eCC Desktop? You could, in fact, be using an older version of eCC. I'm on our latest and greatest version 4.0, and that's why it's also important to not only back up your database, but also when you're prompted to upgrade, because we've got a lot of new features. For example, this create missing product, this is a v4 feature. So if you're using v3.9 and below, you're not going to see this option at all. If you're using even an earlier version of eCC, like 3.2 through 3.5, you're not even going to see this secondary tab. So it's really important to, do those upgrades, updates, so you can use the latest and greatest features that we create for the product. So thank you again for that question. Do I have any other questions before I close this webinar? You guys have been a great audience. Thank you so much. And I do hope to see some of you or all of you at the next 2 webinars that I'm doing this month as well. So let me just comb through here for some more questions. Let's see, I have another question. Can we download pricing for the web store to QuickBooks for updates as well as the items description? I want to talk, I'm addressing this question again because I want to talk about item description. I get this question a lot. The item description is pretty much a one-time field. Your item descriptions that you have in QuickBooks are not going to be the item descriptions you have in your online store. And let's say you change, if they are the same, if they happen to be the same, let's say you make a grammatical change in your QuickBooks, eCC is not going to sync descriptions. It's not involved in synchronizing any kind of description. So descriptions are really a one-time thing. It's really involved in synchronizing the data that is needed to fulfill an order, which is the price or quantity. That's key. So it's another great question. Thank you. I have another question. I have several items that are very heavy to ship and increase the price from my site, which you have free shipping. Can I set up my prices in point of sale level 2 to be my sync price? Okay. At this point, no. If you're using multiple level pricing, eCC and eCC Scheduler generally sees one level of pricing. As you can see, there is no area within Scheduler to choose a pricing level to synchronize. So that's actually a really great feature suggestion. And in our community, there is, in our help desk, you can find our community. There's an area directly for feature requests. I think that would be a very good feature request. Again, I'm going back to our help desk. Here's our community, and here is the feature request area. A few people have been putting some feature requests there, so I would definitely ask that as a feature request. I think that's one good thing our product team would like to be able to see and examine that in more detail. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Any other questions? Another question. What is the best operating system to run this product on? This is a Windows product. So, and I know, I do want to address the Windows XP. Windows XP is legacy at this point. So if you've got Windows XP, that could, you really want to make sure you're on Windows 7, Windows 8. That's the best operating system to run these on. Unfortunately, eCC does not run on the Mac operating system, so this is really primarily a PC software. But if you are using Mac, we do have a product called eCC Cloud, which is a SaaS product that you can use anywhere, so that definitely may be an option. In terms of QuickBooks, I did see a user using QuickBooks 2008. That version was quite old. There were some problems, so you really kind of want to make sure that you've got, QuickBooks 2011. That's okay, no problems. 12, 13, 14, no problems at all. So, when you're working with older versions of QuickBooks, you do run into problems with the SDK, which is the software development kit for that, and the integration can be a little bit unstable because, of course, Intuit has made updates to that version of QuickBooks currently. So you really want to make sure you're on the most current version of QuickBooks, and the most current version of Windows, either Windows 7 or 8. Very good question. Thank you. Okay, this will be my last question. We have an online store using WooCommerce and eBay. Do we need to make 2 stores in eCC for this? Do we create a third store for a retail? If you have retail, you most likely have point of sale. So that is a store in itself. You don't need to create anything for that. But you will have to have a separate store for eBay and a separate store profile for WooCommerce. And they can all kind of feed into your QuickBooks point of sale if you've got a retail shop. So very good question. Thank you. Again, that's going in on multi-channel. So again, everything I was talking about with the scheduler automation within a multi-channel, you definitely want to keep that into account. Let's see. Oh, using 4.0 looks different because of the Canadian version. Yes, international versions will have a different functionality with the scheduler. So thank you for being in Canada using our product. We appreciate it. You know, if you are in Canada or using an international version and there's a feature that you really want, again, I would highly encourage you to put that on the feature request so we can make our international integrations with QuickBooks more robust. And it'd be great if those were the same kind of all across the board. But in order for that to happen, feature requests are greatly appreciated. So thank you for that. Let's see. Well, great. Well, you know, I want to thank everybody for joining this webinar. This has been absolutely wonderful. Great to see new faces. Great to see returning people. Again, you can go to our website and see the past webinars. Here's our website here for the webinars. You can go to our homepage, go right to resources, go to webinars. These are the next webinars that are in this series you can register for. Here's a recording of the one I did last week. So again, I want to say thank you so much for joining this webinar today. It's been great taking your questions, and I hope to see you again, and have a great day.